Hello and welcome to my second video I am posting on this account. And the main topic for this post is that we're going to see if Jesus claimed to be God, which he did using two passages, Daniel 7 verses 9 to 10 and 13 to 14, and Mark 14:61 to 63. The reason why I'm going to be using Mark today is because skeptics say that Mark is the earliest source we have. So I will be using the earliest source to prove that Jesus claimed to be divine. So first we're going to read Daniel 7 verses 9 to 10, which says, and I quote, "As I looked, thrones were set in place, and the Ancient of Days took his seat. His clothing was as white as snow. The hair of his head was white like wool. His throne was flaming with fire, and its wheels were all ablaze. A river of fire was flowing, coming out from before him. Thousands upon thousands attended him. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The court was seated, and the books were opened." And we're going to analyze what it says. We can see in verse 9 that Daniel saw thrones, which is plural. We see that the Ancient of Days took his seat on a throne, singular. So in verse 10 it says all the inhabitants were standing, ready to receive orders from the Ancient of Days. So he is the only one seated on a throne up to this point. But remember, Daniel saw more than one throne. So if none of the inhabitants of heaven are sitting on a throne and the Ancient of Days occupies one throne, that means there must be someone else who's about to show up to take the other throne to rule with the Ancient of Days. Who's that other person? Verses 13 to 14 tell us. We're going to read Daniel 7, 13 to 14, which says, and I quote, "In my vision at night I looked, and there before me was one like a son of man, coming with the clouds of heaven. He approached the Ancient of Days and was led into his presence. He was given authority, glory, and sovereign power. All nations and peoples of every language worshipped him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion that will not pass away, and his kingdom is one that will never be destroyed." End quote. We're going to analyze it. Daniel describes seeing someone like a son of man. The reason why Daniel chose to add the word like is because being a son of man meant you were a human, but he added the word like. That means he looked like a human, but he was a much more than human, much more than that. The Son of Man was riding the clouds of heaven and approached to the Ancient of Days. And we see who's the one who rides the clouds of heaven. Deuteronomy 33 and verses 26 says, and I quote, there is no one like God of Jeshurun, who rides across the heavens to help you on a cloud in his majesty." Then Isaiah says, 19 verse 1, and I quote, "A prophecy against Egypt. See, the Lord rides on a swift cloud in his coming to Egypt. The idols of Egypt tremble before him, and the hearts of the Egyptians melt with fear." So we see that the Son of Man is doing some things riding on the clouds of heaven, which is something only God can exclusively do. So this Son of Man figure is divine, is God. And who's that Son of Man? Mark 14:61 to 63 says. It gives us the answer, which says, and I quote, "But Jesus remained silent and gave no answer. Again the high priest asked him, 'Are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One?' 'I am,' said Jesus, 'and you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven.' The high priest tore his clothes. 'Why do we need any more witnesses?' he asked." End quote. Here we see Jesus calls himself that Son of Man that Daniel specifically described, riding on the clouds of heaven, which is already a divine claim. You can stop the video if you want to. This already proves Jesus is God. But I will be adding more. I will make this argument even better by explaining it more. The reason why it was a powerful statement against the high priest was because the Son of Man would judge all the creation, because he is king of all creation. So by telling the high priest that he he was basically threatening him, the high priest, by telling him that he was going to judge him. When his time came, it would be a bad, bad day for him. Hebrews 6:19-20 and all of Hebrews 9 and 10, according to those chapters which I recommend you read on your own, and the whole New Testament as a whole, says that Jesus rose from the dead, and then after 40 days he physically and bodily ascended into the most holy place in heaven. According to Hebrews, the earthly tabernacle was designed after the heavenly tabernacle. So in heaven there is a tabernacle, in heaven there is a holy place, and a most holy place, and in the most holy place is where you will see God's actual throne and God sitting on it. So why did the high priest rip his clothes? He said that he was going to sit at the right hand of power of the Mighty One. And who did he say that to? To the high priest. To them, to the high priest, they saw Jesus not as God, as divine, but as a flesh and blood Jew. The one who could enter the most holy place was the high priest once a year on the Day of Atonement, and he would have to enter at his own risk that he would drop dead. But I would recommend you guys read Leviticus 16 on your own and you will fully understand what I'm trying to say. The high priest would have to wash and change his clothes, and he would have to enter with a sacrifice for him and the people of Israel. And if God accepted his sacrifice, then he could come out. If God didn't, he would drop dead on the spot. In Jewish tradition, it says that they would tie a rope with a bell on his ankle. So if they heard him drop dead, they could pull him out. So it was very dangerous to enter the most holy place on the earthly tabernacle, in the earthly tabernacle. So again, yeah, it was super dangerous to enter the most holy place on earth. That would mean that the most holy place in heaven would be the most dangerous place to enter out of all places in existence. The high priest could only enter the most holy place on earth once a year and risking his life. Where was Jesus going? He was going to be seated on the mercy seat in the most holy place in heaven, because that's his rightful place. The high priest could only enter once a year and having to risk his own life. Christ is going to enter the real one, the most holy place in heaven. Not only will he enter, but he will take his seat there at the right hand of his Father. That's why the high priest got mad. The high priest thinks Jesus is just a flesh and blood Jew, not God, and knows that he's claiming to have the prerogative to sit on the throne in the most holy place of all places, while the high priest could only enter the earthly and lesser one once a year. He risked his life at the same time entering it. Who did Jesus think he was, claiming to do things like this? He claimed to be God incarnate, the eternal Son of the Father. That's who Jesus claimed. He claimed to be the second person of the Trinity. That's who he claimed to be. So thank you for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment if you want. And yeah, subscribe so you can stay tuned for more. God bless.